Hi, welcome to the small shed. Today I'm going to try and mend my headphones that have gone all mono on me. See you in a minute. Now these aren't by any means what I'd call cheap headphones, but a year or so into owning them I've lost the right hand side, and it can't be that difficult to mend because there are effectively only 3 wires going in there. So let's have a look and see if we can get inside and find out what the problem is. Now the first thing to do is to make sure it's actually the headphones that are at fault and not the outlet on the tablet that I'm using them with. The simplest way is actually to plug them into something else that's got a 3.5mm jack. Another way that I can check it is that there are, as I said earlier, only 3 wires, and there's a ground which is usually the tip and 1 wire which goes to each speaker. And because the speaker is effectively a coil of wire, it should make contact so that the tip goes through the coil of wire and comes back out on one of the other wires. So if I check the one speaker there and the tip, that gives me a full circuit with a little bit of resistance on, which you'd expect to see because of the coil. But if I then go to the next middle set of connections, I get absolutely nothing there. So that means that one of the wires is broken or is not in contact somewhere along the line. So the next problem is how to get in. Now it's possible it's the plug that's at fault, because usually these things get a lot of twisting and bending on that connector, and usually you get a break there somewhere. If that's the case, chop the plug off and replace, because they aren't serviceable as such. But I don't know that that is the case, so really I need to get to the other end of the wire inside the headphones, and that should reveal hopefully where the problem is. It's slightly complicated by the fact that there's obviously 3 wires going in from that wire, but there's no obvious route for wires to go across to the other side, and I can only assume that they're using these metal guides that have the headband restraint on as the 2 wires running to the other speaker on the other side. I'm reluctant to just pull and pry at them, but we'll just have a gentle look. There are some cushions on the headphones, and it may be that will reveal where we are. There are 4 miniature screws in there. They will hopefully get one side off. So get a screwdriver. Just drop that cover off. Right, so we'll take that plate off, and sure enough there are the wires coming in. So there is a plate on the back of the speaker there which has got a red, a white and a black wire. 2 of those wires come in and go off to those 2 wires, those 2 metal runners I think that go up that way, so that's possibly where the problem was. There's no obvious breaks in that side, in that there's a wire there and a wire there, both going to the speakers. So again, do the same thing. We'll get the continuity meter out and find out whether or not we've got contact between the tip and the ground, which is probably that one, the white one. Yes, so that makes a full circuit. That's not a problem. We'll go to that sleeve and see if it connects with that one, which it does. What I can now do is check that the wire to that center sleeve, which is the one here that's got a cover on it, we can check that that is actually making contact. I think I might have to just take this sleeve off, because I'm not sure I can quite get in close enough. Can always put some more heat sleeve back on, some heat shrink back on it. So again we go from center to that wire, and that goes to naught. So again, there's nothing wrong with the wire coming in up to here. So at that point we've got to start looking at where those wires disappear into that rear section and how they attach to the metal wires. There's another screw in there to have a go at, so we will take that off and see where we go with that. That releases the two, and that is possibly where the problem is. Yeah. What I'm seeing there is a lot of very frayed. Let me take you in close. Now what I'm seeing is that this wire here is very poorly, and it looks like it's not actually. There's like a cord running down the middle that keeps the wire in one piece and stops it pulling apart, but you can see there I've just pulled back all of the copper wire away from it, and there's a complete break in it. So it looks like I'm only going to go as far as that to find the problem. So what I'll do now is crank up the soldering station and see if I can get this cut off and remake that connection. So just snip this off. I was a bit worried I'd be soldering to steel, but there is a contact on the end, so hopefully we can get this done without causing too much distress. These things are terribly fragile, but let's get that wire stripped back. I think I'll just tin it first with a bit of solder, because I've got to thread it back through a hole. See, that's got a bit of solder on that wire, so all of the little fluffy bits of wire are now likely to hold together when I push it back through the hole in the rear piece. That's it, that's gone through there okay. So now all I need to do is reconnect to this terminal on here. And we should hopefully be able to just do that by just touching the wire on, and the solder should just rejoin with the stuff that's already there. And hopefully it's as simple as that. I think the first thing to do is just to check it. Right, well I can now hear I've got my Measuring Up podcast playing properly in both ears. as it should be. So what I need to do now is just replace that bit of heat shrink that I took off, because it has the potential to short out one of the other connections. Right, and then all we need to do then is crank up the heat gun. Just do that heat shrink. This stuff just shrinks back when you put heat on it, and stops it pulling off. That's now secure. Simple enough now, just put it back together and job's done. Pleased with that. I thought I'd be in for much more of a problem. And then it's on with what is potentially the most difficult job of all, and that's getting these damn things on, because you've got to stretch the material into a groove and over a side that's a little bit smaller than the opening is. So let's see how we get on with that one. Yeah, job done. Well, that was relatively easy, and for once it was a job that only took about 10 minutes. Again, it just demonstrates that sometimes it doesn't take more than a screwdriver and a soldering iron to mend something that's broken, and usually you've got very little to lose if you have a go. The worst that can happen is that it won't work when you've finished, and it didn't work when you started. So it's always worth just having a go and seeing if you can mend something. It's much more satisfying. I hope you enjoyed the video. I haven't said it for a long while, but thanks once again to all the subscribers who've come on board in the last months. It is much appreciated. It makes it worthwhile to actually see the number slowly going up, and thanks very much to you all. Look forward to seeing you next week, when we'll hopefully be mending something else successfully. See you then. Bye.